200 miles or so of open ocean coast. Equally far from Portland, Oregon, and San Francisco, California. Some people say it has fewer harbors and more rocks, fewer people and bigger trees than anywhere else on Earth. It's foggy sometimes, and in winter it rains a bit. But there's a lot of sunshine and long summer evenings. In this amazing landscape lives the nationally renowned painter Jim McVicker with his wife Terry Oates. Oates is also a highly regarded painter, and they each have a studio that they built next to their house.
Come on, guys.
McVicker enjoys painting in the studio, but his primary focus is painting the landscape. So when the sun shines, you can bet he'll be on the road by 7 o'clock looking for a place to paint.
He's the real
Life preserver on the boat, and then just picking it up a little bit, some of the rusty stuff on the other boat. I first picked up a paintbrush and started painting in 1973. My girlfriend at the time still is an artist. She had a number of art history books, other books on individual artists in our home. And I started looking at those books and became more and more fascinated by painting. In particular, I was looking at the French Impressionist painters. So she had given me a small set of, I think it was acrylic paints, and I started doing copies of Sisley, Pissarro, Toulouse-Lautrec, various artists of the late 19th century. And that was the starting point for me, that I realized this was something I wanted to do. So I started taking some courses at a community college, started reading more about art history, started reading a lot more books and just looking at a lot of different artists. But my primary focus was the late 19th century work. It was 1973, and in 1975, I decided I wanted to be a full-time painter. I quit my job, and I moved from Southern California to Northern California, and started painting full-time. And I was going outdoors, doing some landscapes. Once I got away from doing the copies, my earliest paintings were just going out on the spot. That's the way I thought one would learn how to paint a landscape, and that's what the painters I was admiring and looking at their work, that's what they did. I then, in 1975, also saw
The air in the scene is a major subject of a McVicker painting. He has spent so many hours watching and thinking about this North Coast atmosphere that he has developed a way of seeing it, which is very unique.
I think that he does see things that other people don't see because he's been looking for such a long time.
I've had people pull off, see me painting, and wonder, what do you see out there? What are you painting? And then they look at the painting, and then they look at the scene, and it like clicks. I think that's what the artist does, is we can take something out there that I think for most people is just a jumble of visual, assault, that they aren't able to zero in on the beauty of it.
After an hour and a half or 2 hours, he stops working on this first painting and puts it away, because by then the sun has moved and the light has changed. But he might take the painting out again the day after to continue working on it in the same light. With a large painting, he's been known to take it back out 10 or 20 times, sometimes even waiting a year for the season to return.
He is very structured in his timing too, of when to paint, what to paint. I think he even has like a calendar type schedule where he knows from year to year what areas that would have the right light to be in that spot for X amount of time.
I've stopped at landscapes, looked at them, I just wasn't seeing it, it wasn't working for me. 5 years later, I'm at the same landscape, and all of a sudden it hits me, wow, this is what I can do with it.
Many good painters like to rearrange a scene to make a composition work better. McVicker never does this. He paints it as it really is. Nothing's idealized, nothing is generic. He has to see it to paint it.
You're out painting and then the clouds blow over, you get the wind comes up. There's all these elements out in nature that are incredibly frustrating, but it's that, I think that's all part of it that makes, to me, for better work.
McVicker almost never paints from photographs. He's not opposed to it on principle, it just doesn't excite him.
Jim will never paint from a photograph. That's why his paintings are so lifelike. You know, if you paint from a photograph, you're going to get a painting of a photograph.
He never paints from photos, not that I've known. I mean, he may take a few reference photos, but very rarely paints from them. So I think part of why he's so good is he is out there every day looking at life, and he's painting what he sees. He's painting what he really sees at that particular time.
I tried painting from photographs a little bit, the landscape, and it just, I think I did 4 or 5 paintings, and they were okay, but at one point I just went, what am I doing this for? For me, it wasn't interesting. I mean, I have lots of painter friends that use photographs and do great things with it, but it didn't move me. It wasn't a passionate experience, and I need that in my work. So I started setting up still lifes, which was another way to work from life. I started getting involved in painting figurative work, painting portraits.
Even in these indoor paintings, he's always seeing the light and the air in the room. He loves plants, so in his still life paintings, he often includes one or more of the potted plants that he and his wife have been pampering for years.
Some of his indoor still lifes they're big paintings, a lot of them. Huge, beautiful paintings, and they have so much air and atmosphere in them. Sometimes there's a window in the background, and the window is not like a breaking point, it's just a continuous part of the space in the painting. There's so much airy feeling that they're almost landscapes.
There's atmosphere in the interior just as there is when you're outside breathing the air, and so that is a quality that I really go after in my still life painting, kind of like the unseen things that I'm also trying to get outdoors in my painting.
Through exploration and trial and error, he has learned how to incorporate the element of space into the design of the painting. And for instance, when he first sets up the design and he's drawing all the lines and basically getting the objects in place, sometimes it looks awkward. It's very interesting to me that now some of his still lifes will look very awkward at the beginning, and by the time he finishes putting the finishing touches that reveal the space that he has been looking into, the composition looks absolutely perfect.
There was a period where
he started to introduce almost photorealism into certain sections of his paintings. And in this particular one, if you know photography, it has a certain depth of field, and there's certain areas that are just incredible focus, almost photoreal, and then it goes off into a blur off into the background. And he didn't have that before. And when you get up close, of course, it's just brush strokes. It's in some cases fairly coarse brush strokes. But when you stand back, it almost looks photographic.
He also paints portraits, including many self-portraits, which often show a man looking very intently at a painting.
I sat for many months.
A radio show host back 20 years ago, and this setting is in an old hotel, which was a bordello in downtown Eureka, and Jim and his wife Terry had their shop downstairs, and this was on the third floor, an empty floor, just a floor above where they worked. And so it was in his setting, and it just captures an essence of someone who's not.
I've seen a painting here and there that I wish I still had in my possession. But all in all, years ago, I made a real mental transition in my head that this is the way I survive. I don't have money coming in from any other source. I make a living selling work. And so I am able to let go of the piece. But it's very satisfying to have somebody buy a piece of work.
Whether it's a landscape or a still life or a person that he's painting, McVicker constantly looks and really sees as he's painting. What he sees, he paints. And if you look at the painting for a while, you sort of learn to see things as he does. You almost feel like you haven't been appreciating this particular kind of beauty until now. In all his paintings, there is a sense of freedom that maybe comes from the freedom he feels as he paints. This is an artist who never worries about making a mistake, because he knows he can always change it for the better if something doesn't work.
I've always believed that working spontaneously and quickly is one of the best ways to learn to paint, and to learn how to make decisions, to learn how to deal with values, deal with color, deal with edges.
He has mastered his medium, and as he works on a painting, he experiments constantly. Trying it one way, changing this, adjusting that.
Jim's style, if you look at the painting, it looks extremely loose and free, as if it was almost effortless to do it. You don't see any carefully chiseled lines or things that look like they were overpainted. Everything just looks harmonious and sort of happy. And I think it's because of his painting style, where he has so much freedom and he paints so quickly. And he's so accurate every time he wants to mix a little paint and put on the canvas. He can do it many times each minute. He can do more painting in an hour than most people could do all day. And on top of that, he doesn't mind working hour after hour. There's nothing he'd rather do, and he just enjoys working on a painting. And it all comes out in the finished painting as this sort of happy, confident appearance.
He always works over the whole painting, moving it along all together, never overworking one area, and keeping the harmony that seems to appear in the first 10 minutes work. Watching him work on one, it seems that he produces a whole series of paintings, each of them beautiful, before finally arriving at the one he was looking for all along.
There's no staticness in his work. So many people that are technically good, they lose the bounce that reality has, the way that light bounces around off of objects, and the way we see. We don't see the whole thing. Our eyes dance around all over the object all the time and relate to different things for each individual even. And Jim picks out some of those things that he responds to and makes it accessible to the viewer. thing that's maybe seemingly insignificant is the most significant thing. It's the beauty that we live in, and the place we live in allows us to view that and see that all the time. And we're trying to really just record our interpretation of being here and share it.
Everything is alive. I mean, we're all just part of this whole mess of nature. And so, to me, it's like I'm out there, in a sense, honoring, sounds corny, but honoring the landscape, because ultimately that is so much more important than anything I'm going to paint or anything anyone else has painted. I mean, all that's, in time going to just disappear, just like us. Trying to see the shapes, see the values, see the color, and think of every object in the painting, not so much as an object, but a shape. And playing with those planes, things moving back, and you can really simplify that way. I mean, there's a lot of busyness going on, a fair amount of detail without being overly detailed, from a distance it reads. Really like that blue on that boat, that aqua color, and that's just reflected light on there, but it picks up this beautiful, beautiful color. And then those little notes of the orange.